Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. How are you doing? Welcome into Tommy Bites Homestead. So as you enter, please hit that like button, share the video out. All those things do help this channel get out to more people, so more people can get the news that they can use news on the go, okay, to keep you in the know. And last night, a lot of people thought, well, they were surprised by what President Trump had to say in his State of the Union that he had at 9 p.m. All day it had been going around circulating that allegedly he is going to announce that we are going to war with Venezuela. And I think he pulled the okie doke. He wanted the media to cover this. And this is what he had to say. And did he cover saying we're going to go to war with Venezuela? If you don't know that that is a thing, that is a thing. So let me just show you real quick what that thing is that he was, why people thought what they thought. And then we'll get into what he actually had to say.
Find that there's a very receptive ear to doing exactly what they're doing, taking out those boats. And very soon we're going to start doing it on land too, because we know every route, we know every house, we know where they manufacture this crap, we know where they put it all together. And I think you're going to see it very soon. I think you're going to find that there's a
president.
Okay, so you heard what he said, and because we did take a oil tanker from Venezuela just a week or so ago. We actually took it. I covered it. We had the helicopter. It flew in. Military jumped off with their weapons, and they took over a Venezuelan ship, oil tanker. And this is what China has to say about that. Yes, China is involved. We know that Venezuela has a military, but they don't have a military that can fight against the U.S. military. We know that good old Pete Hegseth has come out and he's talked about drafts, and your daughters and your sons will be entering a draft. And other countries are doing the same. They are saying that they want your daughters and your sons, and we thank you for letting us have them, basically, to serve the military, because countries are preparing for war. There are so many different things going on. We have Boris in France saying the same thing, that women, yes, women, you too, and men will be drafted. So if every country is talking the same thing, there are things that are going on that the media is not really speaking on. But this was so loud that everybody assumed that this is what Trump was going to say, because insiders had been leaking, and I think Trump had them intentionally leak that this is what he was going to do, that he was going to announce war with Venezuela, which in turn would lead to this situation right here. So everybody was kind of up in arms.
Isn't mincing words, calling this the biggest. China has just issued an unprecedented warning to the United States. Defend Venezuela's President Maduro with military force if necessary. This shocking escalation comes as 8 U.S. warships carrying 1,200 missiles patrol Venezuelan waters, marking the most dangerous standoff in Latin America in over a century. Venezuela's President Nicolás Maduro isn't mincing words, calling this the biggest threat our continent has seen in 100 years. He's mobilized over 4 million members of the Bolivarian militia and created a new communal militia combat unit, preparing for what he calls maximum defense readiness. But here's what makes this different from typical military posturing. China has approximately $100 billion invested in Latin America. Beijing's warning suggests the People's Liberation Army could intervene directly, drawing parallels to Russia's actions in Ukraine that nobody saw coming. The US justifies this massive naval deployment as part of counter-narco-terror operations against what they call the cartel running Venezuela. Defense Department officials warned bluntly, The cartel running Venezuela is strongly advised not to pursue any further effort to obstruct, deter, or interfere with counter-narcotics operations carried out by the US military. This isn't just about drugs, though. The timing reveals something much bigger at play. The deployment includes a nuclear submarine and coincides with UNITES 2025 naval exercises, suggesting Washington's preparing for something beyond routine patrols. When asked about Venezuelan jets approaching US vessels, President Trump didn't hesitate. If they do put us in a dangerous position, they'll be shot down. Secretary of State Marco Rubio went even further, stating, "What will stop them is when you blow them up, when you get RI'd of them." Despite the aggressive rhetoric, Maduro has extended an unexpected olive branch to Washington. None of the differences we have and have had can lead to a military conflict. Venezuela has always been willing to talk, to engage in dialogue, but we demand respect. But China's involvement changes everything. This isn't just about US-Venezuela tensions anymore. Chinese state media hasn't explicitly confirmed military intervention plans, but they've echoed Maduro's warnings while condemning what they call extravagant, immoral, and bloody threats. The stakes couldn't be higher for the 740,000 Americans living in nearby territories. If China follows through on its warning, Latin America could become the next proxy battleground between superpowers. Venezuelan human rights activist Melanio Escobar sees it differently from exile.
Crushed and the stock market pretty much going away. It was a lot, but one of the key highlights where there were all these tanks and rockets going off and bombs exploding. When we went over that of what is to come for 2026, and The Economist is nothing to sneeze at. The 13 families, those who, those in real power are who put this out. The Rothschilds chair this magazine, so they don't put this out as speculation. They don't put it out as a maybe. They don't put, no. And when you go into detail inside, they said war will be here. So they know what is to come. I warned you of that a couple weeks ago. So now we are seeing World War III in real time. This is along with that clip I played of Pete Hegseth that he said last week that essentially that we are asking American taxpayers to fund the military, and that we are also asking mothers and fathers to trust the military, the government, with your most precious resource, your children. That's what they're saying, as well as we dug up that they are bringing back since 1971 an automatic draft. But we're not the only country doing it. A lot of people saying the draft has always been automatic. No. And
the draft has not always been automatic. But when your son turns 18, and now I guess it's women too, when your son turns 18, they have to go to the post office and fill out that form, because if they don't fill out that form and they're going off to college, like my son did, he had to go and do that, or he could not receive his scholarships that he was awarded. It's always a catch-22 with stuff. So does it concern me that they want me to trust them with my most precious resource? What about their resources? Will their children go? They're talking about young people, young men, young women. They're talking about veterans, people who have been in the military and have gotten out. They're talking about them as well. I don't know the exact age cutoff that it will be for this draft, but they're talking about all of this. And so this is what everyone thought was going to be said last night. And what was actually said last night was, I think, a trick by Trump to get the news to cover it, because they know that the news has not been covering any of his speeches or anything like that. So what better way to get them all there is everybody knows that this stuff is going on with Venezuela, China, Russia, Ukraine, you name it, Taiwan, all of them. They know all this is going on, North Korea. Everybody's going to be there because they think that this is what Trump is going to announce. But what did he really announce? He went through a list of things. I watched the whole thing. I don't want to get into all of it. But he went through a list of things, and not one was what I'm talking about right now. Nothing to do with Venezuela. It was about tariffs. It was about the worst president of all times. It was about everything but that. It was mainly what caught people off guard was this right here. Let me share this with you. Okay, so what caught people off guard was what Trump said. More than 1 million members of the U.S. military are to receive a one-time special payment worth $1,176. And when he said that, I said, 1,000, that's a random number. No, that's not a random number. I had to think about it. 1776 is what I thought. And so I wasn't the only one thinking that, because I think in this article they mentioned it as well. They said the amount is a nod to the year when the U.S. was founded. We're coming up on, I think, the 250th anniversary of when that happened. Next year, I believe. U.S. President Donald Trump announced the special payment in a speech to the nation on Wednesday. The checks are already on the way, he said. Nobody deserves it more than our military. And you probably asking where this money came from. I'm going to let you know. Trump described the payment as a warrior dividend and said no one deserves this check more than the U.S. troops do. Around 1.5 million service members are to receive this check. The relief is supposed to get to them before Christmas, but the relief package is estimated to cost around $2.6 billion. In the 18-minute address, Trump shredded his predecessors, Joe Biden. He claimed the economy was on the brink of ruin under Biden's leadership. He used this moment to do what he do, because he knew no one would cover it if they didn't assume that this is what he was going to talk about was Venezuela. So he pointed out that inflation under Biden reached record high. The Democrat inflation disaster, again, the worst in the history of our country, he says, also robbed millions of Americans of home ownership and indeed the American dream. Trump showed Americans a chart that showed price decreases. Now, when he started going through the chart, I will say some of it I agreed with and some of it I did not agree with it. And everybody's entitled to their own opinion. When he started talking about the prices of food and stuff and going down, I'm like, okay, when last time you went to the grocery store? But so he claimed that his administration had secured $18 trillion worth of investments into the country, and he credited tariffs for much of the economic success that the country was feeling. Trump also used the speech to roll off his foreign policy achievements. I won't go through all of those. But he said, I restored American strength, settled 8 wars in 10 months, destroyed the Iran nuclear threat, ended the war in Gaza, bringing for the first time in 3,000 years peace to the Middle East. Meanwhile, millions of cash-strapped Americans are waiting for an update about potential $2,000 rebates. Remember, he talked about the rebates that Americans would be getting, not the 1776 that the military is getting, but that everyone is supposed to be getting from the tariffs. So Trump didn't speak about the check for low-income earners in his speech. So there you go. He didn't even talk about it. But the money that the 1776 is a part of the money that's coming from the tariffs that the country has. So earlier this month, Scott Bassett, Trump's Secretary Treasury, suggested rebates could be issued next year. He says, I think we're going to see $100 to $150 billion of refunds, which could be between $1,000 and $2,000 per household. So there you have it. That was some of what took place last night. So did not speak on any kind of Venezuelan war or China, Russia, or anything like that, but he did speak on the 1776 payments to the military. And he did not talk about the draft. That's just something that has been out there. His people have been coming out. They have been talking about it. So if you did not know about it, now you do. They want you to trust your sons and your daughters to them in the event of war. And it's not about, oh, I'm going to leave America, move away from America, because every country is doing the same thing. Every single country is doing the same thing.